Hey, great Saturday morning. I hope you are doing well, and welcome to episode 3 of Coffee with Chris. Coffee with Chris is something we've been doing just for a few weeks now, and it is a video that I'm trying to put out once a week on the weekend, and in addition to our normal videos and content that come out throughout the week. And it's just a way for me to have some dialogue with you, the viewers, and so from both sides of the camera, and for us to talk about just some of the topics that have been showing up in YouTube videos about our woodworking niche, and also, we'll talk about family and parenting and our faith and different things along the way. We've started out these first few weeks definitely talking about woodworking, as this is a woodworking channel, and but really, I kind of go off of the comments and I take things that show up in the comments and use them for the next week's question or topic. So that's kind of the way I'm doing this thing. So last week we posed the question talking about woodworking as a hobby versus woodworking as a business, a side hustle, an income maker. Can it be both? Can you really enjoy it as the hobby and as a income producer? Is there a way to do that? Is it possible? And that question was really brought up off some comments I had gotten on previous videos that I did. We did one a few months ago on starting up a small woodworking business, basically for free, and how to start it on a budget. And so I based this week's topic off of some of the comments I got on that. So I wanted to read through a few of the comments. I've got them grouped together, kind of in by like opinions, I guess is the way to say it. And I just want to read through them. We got some good ones. Of course, as this series goes on, and hopefully we get more and more comments each week, and we build up audience for this kind of Saturday morning. It's not really a podcast, maybe it is, but I won't always be able to read all the comments just for time's sake. But while we're not having as many each week, and they're really good ones, I want to try to get through them all. So let's get going. All right, so this week's comments, fantastic ones. We got a few longer ones and a few shorter ones. So I just kind of want to work through them and give you some thoughts on them. But they all are pertaining to hobby versus the business. So here we go. So and a few of them are repeat commenters from last week. I thank you guys so much for watching again and taking your time and commenting. And we certainly want to do justice to your opinions and your thoughts on the topic. So the first couple I've put together, and they've got kind of a common theme a little bit. So our friends at Alder and Elm Woodworking, thanks for watching again. And they say, "Hi, Chris. Thank you for including my comment in this episode. The old saying, 'Do what you love and you will never work a day in your life,' has some truth to it. But deadlines and revenue can get in the way of that pretty quickly. The line between hobby and business really comes down to your expectations. When it is a hobby, the work happens on your own terms. When it becomes a business, other people start depending on the outcomes." And this is a fantastic analogy here. He says, "I think of it like a boat at a dock. As a hobby, the boat is tied up and you can step on and off whenever you want to. As a side business, the boat starts to drift a little bit, and you have to take a bigger step, maybe even a small leap, to get on and off. Once it becomes a full-time business, the boat is no longer tied to the dock. The option to step back kind of disappears, and you're committed to staying on the boat out on the water. The key is managing your expectations along the way with your time and your income and your family." Before I comment on that, a few more kind of on the same lines. Again, M. Blackford 100, thanks for coming back and commenting again this week. He says, "On this week's question, I believe it stops being a hobby or fun when you start depending on it for a source of income. At that point, it becomes work." And then we also had a guy, and this is the first time commenter, and Caps Fan 1308, and he says, "Hi Chris, I just came across this video and really enjoyed the content. Thank you so much." He said, "I'm a hobbyist, but do earn some on my projects. I'm always teetering on how much I want to dedicate to going bigger. I worry that if it feels too much like work, that I won't enjoy it as much." So before I get to the couple other ones, I want to kind of talk about those together because they all mentioned work in those comments, and so I 100% agree that there's definitely a difference, and I've felt that in doing some things that I enjoy, and then doing some things that are like, hey, I got to sell some stuff to make some money to fund this hobby, and so what are we going to do that's different? And we talked a little bit last week. I mentioned they could be different things. You could have stuff that you enjoy making just for yourself, for your friends, for your family, for gifts and things like that, but man, you're not able to sell them in your area. And of course, that's different for every area. We've talked about that in previous, the regular videos on the channel. Um, if you're doing it as a side hustle, if you're doing it as a means of funding your hobby, and you need to produce some income to help pay for wood and supplies or new tools and things you want to get, um, certainly you've got to build things that sell. You've got to build things that people will buy in your area, whether that's online on Marketplace or at vendor shows and things like that. I've talked about in the past, I spent the first year as this kind of figuring out this side hustle business. I spent 2025 basically the whole year. I did a little bit of stuff on Marketplace with some planter boxes and things like that. I do have a video of one of the planter boxes that we've built. In fact, I've got a couple videos on planter boxes. But I did some of those on Marketplace. That was really the only success I had on Marketplace. Some of the flip furniture and things like that I didn't do as well with. Now, we did pretty well with vendor shows, especially around the holiday season. Did fantastic in November and December with our vendor shows with cutting boards and Christmas decorations and things like that. And then we did kind of steady sales over the course of the year with our booth that we have at a market, a vintage market. But none of those things were consistent, really. So, that's one thing that I told you early on in this channel that I'm going to be working with 2026 is really growing products because I do want this to be a long-term sustainable business, along with hopefully this channel. So those are things you really got to work through. Now, in terms of it not being enjoyable as a hobby any longer when it becomes a business, I personally haven't ran into that yet because I don't have a big woodworking business to this point. It's still small things periodically that I sell. I don't have a daily product production or anything like that. So personally, I haven't ran into that. I can 100% see how that would be a concern for someone maybe wanting to or thinking about making that transition. Now, one of the comments said that, you know, worried about how much they want to dedicate to going bigger because it would feel like work. I still think there's a way to separate it out. I still think you can do both. I think you can have products for sale and things you can do as a hobby. And let me read one more comment, the next few comments, because he kind of touches on that. And then I've got some thoughts. So Buckeye Prepper 7101, thanks for watching again and spending your time commenting again. He says, "Hey Chris, thank you for also for including my comment and the feedback. First off, as a fellow believer, I'm encouraged and appreciate your boldness in sharing your Christian faith." Hey man, look, that's something that's going to happen on this channel. That's something that's going to be done. You've seen in other videos. Not every video, and it's something I want to do, but try to include some scripture. Try to include a little bit about my faith. It is a massive, massive, most important part of my life, and my family and my home, and so that's going to be part of the video or part of my channel, I should say. And so that's not for everybody, and that's okay. Hopefully, some people, even if that's not for them, they'll still watch the channel, the videos for the woodworking content and for this type of discussion. But can't please everybody, and somebody's not going to watch the channel, any of the videos, because I mentioned Jesus in one of the videos that they watch. So if that's the case, that's okay. I've said it before, there's a lot of variety on YouTube. There's a lot of variety in the woodworking niche. And there's some channels I watch that use language and various things in their videos nothing against those people. I watch the videos. It's just not what I'm going to do on my channel with the content I put out. So thank you for that comment. I always appreciate that people acknowledge that, and that will be something that's part of the channel as long as it goes. So he also says the timing of this week's question is a bit ironic, as I've spent significant time this past week contemplating that exact thing. My original idea was strictly hobby or side hustle, but I've run into a potential health threat that has made me look at the possibility of turning it into a business. Thinking my specific mindset, I think splitting time between batching out simpler projects and more creative projects. And that's kind of the approach I took. First of all, I'll be praying for you. I think I put that in the comments on the video. I'll be praying for you for your health issues coming up. Nothing internal that I had, but this whole YouTube channel and woodworking idea came out of, as I've said before in other videos, out of back and knee issues that really hampered my ability to do home inspections with the company I had. And so that's why I'm sitting here talking to you guys, because I'm trying something different due to physical issues as well. So certainly be praying for your health issues, man, and hope those work themselves out, and that you're able to continue to pursue whatever it is you decide to keep going forward with. But in terms of your comment, that's exactly the approach I took. Batching out simpler projects. I talked about in one of the videos, or several of the videos actually, some of the things we use to sell for vendor shows, the Scrabble tiles and some of the coffee mug holders and stuff that you can make really quick in big chunks. And while, you're not selling those things for $300, $400, $500 a pop like you would a table or something. But man, they definitely create some income flow in a vendor booth or in a flea market booth or anything like that. So batching out projects and then doing some creative fun things. Last year, along with those vendor show type items or our flea market booth items, I did some custom furniture flip and table pieces for some folks, and those things are really fun. But man, unless you've got your name out there, it's hard to be sustainable, I found, doing those one-offs, unless they are big one-off pieces and you're creating large tables and things you're selling for a good amount of money that sustains you for months or whatever it is until the next one sells. And I'm actually going to get into that here in a second when we bring up next week's topic. So, because that's going to carry us into next week. We had a couple of comments from some new commenters. One of them just says, this from, it's MTNJAK. I think that's Mountain Jack. That's a cool name, by the way. I'm about to find out if it can be both. I'll let you know how it goes. I think for me it can be, but we'll see. That's the only way to do it, man. Give it a whirl, see what you think. Like everything else, we're going to change our mind along the way probably. But I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking time to comment. And hopefully we'll get some more from you going forward. And then the last one is just a real simple one from Just JGOK. So Just J Go K. I probably butchered how that was intended, but he just wrote, I appreciate the video. Definitely some things to think about. And certainly thank you for taking the time to comment and watching. So real quick, wrapping up this kind of subject here. I totally think it's doable to do both. I may be proven wrong over the next however long the time period is. I may be proven wrong. I think it's totally, you're able to do both things. I think it's very similar. I mean, I've got guys that are friends of mine or that are acquaintances or buddies that they're mechanics. That's what they do for a living. They work at a dealership and they work on cars, but on the weekend they work on their own antique car that they've been restoring. And they work on buddies' cars and help out. Like that's an example. Like woodworking, it's something they do as a living for a career, and they something to do as a hobby. Now, granted, the woodworking business is a little more independent. There's not like a car dealership you can get a job at as a woodworker. There may be some small places somewhere. We don't have any place around here where I live where you could get a job building things out of wood and selling them in a store. It's pretty much you're on your own to get yourself going and make your own name and get out there. So that may be different somewhere, and certainly if it is, please shoot a comment, because I would love to hear about people that have those kind of opportunities. That's fascinating to me. But that leads me into next week's topic, right? So woodworking. For those of you, if anybody has that's watching this video, been successful in going from hobby to business, I would love to hear about it. Please leave a comment. Shoot me an email if you don't want to leave a comment on the video. I'll put my email address right down below. You can certainly email me. But I would love to talk about that transition and people that have been successful with that transition. Whether it be a really successful, steady side hustle, or certainly one that has been a full time um, business, like big business. Now, there are a lot of guys on um, YouTube that teach this. John Malecki teaches it. In fact, there's a lot of guys that have successful long term YouTube channels that have transitioned into these classes, these programs you can buy, and things like that that help you create a business out of your channel or your hobby. Um, there's a couple of guys, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He started off years ago building just tables. That's all he does is kitchen tables. Now he's got a huge business with employees, and they make a ton of tables and sell them, and he makes a lot of money doing it. So there's plenty of guys on YouTube that teach this stuff or that have done this, and so it's fascinating to me, the transition going into that, and if you are successful. So side hustle or full time business, man, please leave a comment if you're watching this video, or drop me an email. I would love to share with the viewers um, a little bit of success stories on that thing, because there's people like me that are hopeful that it becomes a long term type business. So I would love to get some success stories about that. If we don't, we'll just talk about it. So for next week's episode, um, can woodworking legitimately become a sustainable business? If so, have you done it? Do you know somebody that's done it? Um, let's talk about it next week on Coffee with Chris. You guys take care. Be blessed.